Good afternoon. It is wonderful to be here. Welcome to this shared Legacies service. We celebrate shining lights in our history and in our legacy of shared legacies and shared struggle. We're grateful for this program and for those who have come together. The historic Ebenezer Baptist Church. Welcome to Ebenezer Church. I'm a member here and occasionally they let me preach. We're grateful for our friends. Two historic congregations have enjoyed a long friendship. We're grateful for the folks who are here from the Temple. Let's hear it for the Temple. And for the work of the Spill the Honey Foundation. We are here tonight to welcome the Reverend Dr. Dean Lawrence Edward Carter Sr. Come on, give him a great big God bless you.
The significance of the International Hall of Honor at Morehouse College. Of course, it started with the founding of the college in Augusta, Georgia, in 1867 on Valentine's Day. The college was founded out of a willingness to love, and a love big enough to embrace the world. And so, the Martin Luther King Jr. International Chapel was founded in February, close to Valentine's Day, in 1978 by our seventh president, Dr. Hugh Morris Gloster Sr., and now flourishes under the leadership of our 13th president, Dr. F. Du Bois Bowman, class of 1992. Dr. Gloster was class of 1931. I created the International Hall of Honor, and you know you get to create, when you're the founding dean, you can play Adam. You get to name everything. And so I created it in 1982, which stands as a living testament to the moral imagination of Morehouse College and its most esteemed alumnus, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., class of 1948. Within the International Chapel hangs more than 350 oral portraits. Our stained glass windows in pigment and canvas. They illumine not with colored light, but with consecrated lives. Here are theists, atheists, agnostics, deists, scientists, humanists, modernists, postmodernists, diverse in creed, yet united in conscience. All are moral cosmopolitans, in my opinion, bound by a shared reverence for the dignity of every human being. Each induction reflects the interdisciplinary, interfaith, interracial, intercultural, international, and cross-gender vision embodied by Dr. King's sacrificial life. These honorees mirror in varied callings and context the dream he dared to proclaim, that justice and love belong not to one people, but to all. Together, their portraits tell a single unfolding story. Women and men who showed up in the world practicing peace, embodying nonviolence, advancing justice, standing with the suffering. And no one group has a monopoly on suffering. The least of these, standing with the lost and the left out. Their lives labor toward the unfinished promise at the heart of the American experiment, that all are created equal. The Hall of Honor is more than a gallery. It is a covenant in color, a witness across generations that the beloved community is not imagined into being, but painted through courage, sacrifice, and inclusive love.
Shared legacies is something that really, as far as I know, goes all the way back to the Old Testament. And there are very few ministers of the gospel who are black who don't at some time in their ministry specialize in a sermon about their Jewish roots. Martin Luther King always said that truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. Yet that scaffold sways the future, and behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadows, keeping watch above his own. That black men and women had as much faith as the prophets of old. Jeremiah said, "Is there no balm in Gilead?" And black men and women in slavery said, they took Jeremiah's question mark and straightened it out into an exclamation point and said, yes, there is a balm in Gilead that makes the wounded whole. There's a balm in Gilead that heals the sin-sick soul. And so when I get discouraged and think my work's in vain, then comes the Holy Spirit to revive my soul again. And there you have an integration of the Holy Spirit of the New Testament and the prophets of old coming together, and that happened over and over in our lives. And so it's important that here at Morehouse we honor those who have maintained that tradition, because I don't know that there's any place in the world where that position, that idea has done more to create a community, a city of brotherhood, a city of progress, a city of education, a city that realizes that if we don't make it as brothers and sisters, we will probably perish together as fools. And so I thank you for continuing this celebration and keeping it alive. When I think of the future, I realize that it's not in the conflict of Colombia, but in the cooperation that we see here in the AU Center and the city of Atlanta, where we exchange pulpits regularly between synagogue and congregation church, and where we live and have worked together as brothers and sisters. In fact, it's hard to think of a business in the early days of desegregation of Atlanta that wasn't promoted by a black and Jewish partnership. And thank you for keeping that faith alive and for demonstrating its effectiveness, and hopefully it will confine our nation to a kind of brotherhood and sisterhood that will allow us to survive and our Constitution to prevail. God has blessed us. Let us share those blessings with each other, and let us pray that we all overcome.
So very grateful for his voice and for the voices of so many who have shined the light in the right direction, who have been continual witnesses to human dignity, God's love, and justice in the world, and standing firm against racism, against anti-Semitism, against all forms of xenophobia, recognizing that when we do that, we affirm not only the dignity of human beings, but the sovereignty of God. The recognition that there are no little I's and big U's, no big I's and little U's. We're all children of the living God. And so I'm grateful for that work. And this work continues, and for all of it, we are indeed glad. The President Emeritus of Morehouse College, a place that has continued to be a site of this work, and he in his own way, through his many publications, has always called us to moral leadership in the various spaces, Emory University, Morehouse College, Reverend Dr. Robert Michael Franklin. So very, very grateful. Former Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence, co-founder of the Congressional Caucus on Black-Jewish Relations, is in the house. Would you stand, give her a great big round of applause? And the one who has corralled all of us, talk about herding cats. Thank you so very much for your patience with us, for your voice, for insisting that this matters, and recognizing that it mattered enough to put on film so that it is documented, that the story continues to be told. Would you welcome Dr. Shari Rogers, president and founder of Spill the Honey Foundation.
I am honored to be here today. You heard my title. I served in Congress, and there was so much going on. The shooting at the synagogues, it was George Floyd, it was all of these incidents of anti-Semitism and racism. And I went to John Lewis, who I was so honored to serve with, and I said, John, have we ever had a Black Jewish caucus? Because you see in Congress, when something is important, you form a caucus, and then all the members who believe in that issue join that caucus so they can work together on bills and be a united voice. And he said, Brenda, I don't think we ever have. I said, well, don't you think we should? Because every time these incidents happen, we would have a press conference, and all of these people who believed that it was wrong would stand side by side. And I said, well, I think there should be one too. And I said, I'll help you. And if you knew John Lewis, he said, no, you do it. And so I said, okay. So 2 weeks later, I came running back full of pride. I said, I have over 30 members. I said, but they're all Democrats. And as John Lewis, the way he believed and lived, he said, then your work isn't done. Go back and find some Republicans. So I went back and I found Republicans, and we founded the Black Jewish Caucus. And when I retired, this amazing woman tapped me on the shoulder. She said, your work's not done. Come work with our foundation of educating and motivating and reminding people of our shared legacies. The film that was made, and if you haven't seen the full film, I strongly encourage you to watch it. You're going to get a little snippet today. But ladies and gentlemen, this is what I want to leave you with. One of my mentors, Elijah Cummings, who was a member of Congress, he told me, he said, Brenda, what you do today, through these hard fights, through these debates, and through bills and voting and all of the things that you do, you send a message to a generation that you'll never meet. Most of us in this room have some memory of the fight and the challenges of those and these amazing people that we put on canvas, how they believed and they fought, because we, as Blacks, we stand on the history, the survival, and the strength of our people who made it through slavery. And many of you in this room, you know the story, and you have family members, so few who are left, that survived and taught and reminded you how important it was to stand up against hate. So together, this thing called hate, Shared Legacies, is putting everything we can in it to tell you we're on the clock. It's our time. We're writing history. And history will talk about when we stood up and we said, we will not tolerate this. We will not be quiet. We will stand up because hate is not the thing that will allow us to grow, to learn, and to send a message to a generation that we'll never meet, that love keeps us strong. Thank you so much.
First of all, I am so honored to stand in this historic Ebenezer church where Martin Luther King's father, Daddy King Sr., preached, where Martin Luther King Jr. inspired a nation, and where Senator Warnock continues to inspire the next generation. I am deeply humbled to be in this room with my role model, Sherry Frank. Whose character and actions define leadership, Jewish leadership, and what it truly means to be a bridge builder. She was the head of the Southeast American Jewish Committee, and what laid the foundation, I think, for Congressman John Lewis to so understand this importance when Brenda asked him, was his relationship with Sherry Frank. They rebuilt, when the relationship had frayed a little bit, Congressman John Lewis and Sherry Frank rebuilt the Black-Jewish Alliance here in Atlanta. So I am just honored to be in this room. Sherry Frank also was the one who brought Spill the Honey team to the temple, where Rabbi Berg so graciously created an atmosphere that allowed us to continue to raise the funds for this film and build a momentum that I think would not have happened without her. Who could have imagined that she could garner, that Congressman John Lewis would be at the temple for this fundraiser, and Reverend Dr. C.T. Vivian, and Reverend Durley, and Rabbi Sugarman would all gather together at the temple to ensure this history was known and honored. Each of them spoke movingly of the earlier rabbis. Rabbi Rothschild, they spoke so lovingly of, and Rabbi Heschel, and now the blessed memory of Rabbi Sugarman, who was there with us to help us raise those funds right there, because it was so, when I interviewed Rabbi Sugarman with Rebbetzin Rothschild, he had tears in his eyes. I mean, this history was so important to him. Just recalling their warmth, their moral courage, and unwavering leadership in the fight for justice alongside the Black community. One of Atlanta's most respected educators who speaks with wisdom that echoes that of, I'm going to say, Moses, Dr. King, and even Jesus, is Dean Carter of Morehouse College, who will be retiring. The whole Jewish community, and Sherry Frank really wanted to make sure of this, really wanted the whole Jewish community should honor him for ensuring that Morehouse College, where Dr. King studied, includes his education and these portraits about the shared legacies of the Black and Jewish Coalition, a partnership foundational to the civil rights movement. And I can't tell you how we've built a friendship and how much Dean Carter means to the entire world, because I believe this history is the roadmap, the balm, if you will, B-A-L-A-M, for understanding what it means to spill the honey, which is the name of our nonprofit organization. This historic African-American Jewish Civil Rights Alliance stands as a singular example in American history, two communities recognizing themselves in one another. They allowed the honey of their own identity to spill over, to overflow beyond their own cup, so they could see themselves reflected in the other. In our film, Rabbi Everett Gendler, of blessed memory, spoke of Dr. King and Rabbi Heschel as soul brothers. He understood that the honey, the soul, had a source, and the source was God. He recalled the occasion when Dr. King came to a rabbinic conference to honor Abraham Joshua Heschel on his 60th birthday at the Catskills. He said when the two entered the room, 1,000 rabbis surrounded them, linking arms and saying, "We shall overcome," in Hebrew. I was so honored to work with Dr. Clarence B. Jones for over 13 years as he served as our chairman. I met Dr. Clarence B. Jones at the Charles Wright Museum of African American History in my hometown of Detroit, Michigan. As Dr. King's attorney and speechwriter, he promised Dr. King that if Dr. King was no longer here, Clarence would ensure the world knew how integral the Jewish community was to the civil rights movement. Our documentary, Shared Legacies, and the newly released documentary on Clarence B. Jones' personal life, co-directed by Steph Curry, the basketball player, which will be on Netflix, amplify this critical history. This is not just a history, though. It is a springboard, a living, breathing legacy still unfolding. When people see our film and engage with the accompanying curriculum, they deepen their understanding of the power of shared humanity, the power of seeing oneself in the other. That understanding helped build our shared legacy and continues to guide us today. To the extent we are willing to find common ground in one another, we strengthen our ability to stand together in pursuit of our shared goals. That is how we honor the past, and that is how we build the future, and that is how we can continue to spill the honey. And I just also want to I would be remiss if I did not thank the American Jewish community here that continues with Dov Wilker to lead the Black Jewish Alliance here and as a leader in the country as well. And also, who helped sponsor this was the amazing CNN, Van Jones, who has taken it upon himself to have these important Exodus dinners around the country, and he is even using our film to build a leadership tract, because he knows also how much we need each other, and that our history only can help invigorate our shared futures that our new chairman, Dr. Ben Chavis, will be speaking about in a moment. But before I end my little speech here and we see the film, the little 8-minute film that I created just for this event, I just want to say, when I interviewed Congressman John Lewis and Sherry Frank, the last thing that he said, no one even asked him about Israel. He grabbed Sherry Frank's hand and he held her hand and he said, "Sherry, my dream is peace for Israel." That's it.
There's an African proverb that says if the lions don't tell their stories, the hunters will get all the credit.
I'm telling you the story now because you're young lions and lionesses.
My great-grandfather had been in slavery, and it goes across generations. You just don't get rid of it simply because there are no chains on you.
The effects of slavery are still very prominent, just as the effects of the Holocaust are still very prominent amongst our brothers and sisters in the Jewish community.
The Jewish people have the DNA in their soul to look up close to what happened to African Americans after slavery.
Atlanta and its history never had a Nobel laureate. And now, right in our midst, the figure, this prophetic figure of Dr. King brings home to us, our city. But to have a Nobel laureate and nobody even lift a finger?
Benjamin Mays was president of Morehouse College and was Martin King's president. And he made the decision that Morehouse College would be the first to honor Dr. King in Atlanta. And he could not do that by himself. Dr. Mays was intimately acquainted with Rabbi Rothschild. And so after Benjamin Mays made his first approach to Ralph McGill, his second was to Rabbi Rothschild, and both signed on full-throatedly that Martin King should be honored not just in the black community in Atlanta, but in downtown Atlanta. There should be a gathering like there had never been before that was interracial.
There was fear. White people, they said, would not come to dinner and sit down with colored people and white people eating together. That just was not a pretty picture for them.
At that time, retired head of Coca-Cola, who was the big benefactor of practically everything cultural in Atlanta, said, in effect, you got to think about whether Coca-Cola needs Atlanta or Atlanta needs Coca-Cola. That's what turned the tide, because all of a sudden, everybody was looking for tickets.
We came to the South, young Jews, rabbis, many of them refugees from Nazi Germany. We hear Dr. King quoting the prophets. That was extraordinary. It made us proud.
Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel said, "The future of America will depend on how it responds to Dr. King."
A large Jewish presence in the civil rights movement was evident almost from the beginning.
Well, Stan Levinson and Harry Wachtel were lawyers who were working with Dr. King. They were lawyers, advisors, marchers, fundraisers. They were in the thick of things.
Many Jewish students worked all across the South. And I will never, ever forget 3 young men, Annan Goodman, Micah Scherner, and James Shaney.
Birmingham is Birmingham.
We all know the Exodus is the central narrative of our redemption. And here is a modern situation. Shall we do nothing?
We could not have gotten anywhere had not Protestants, Catholics, and Jews showed up from all over the world.
Rabbi Joachim Prinz spoke immediately before Dr. King.
The most shameful and the most tragic problem is silence.
I'm still in high school, but I run into this young law student who was in Washington. His name was Joseph Lieberman from Connecticut. And as God would have it, later Joseph Lieberman, who by that time became the Attorney General of Connecticut and then the United States Senator, he and I worked together on strengthening black-Jewish relations.
So in my case, and I've thought about this, what brought me to the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom? Part of it was my religious upbringing. We're not here by accident, we're here as a result of an act of creation by God. And one of the results of that is that we were all created equally.
I believe that we have to do more than just celebrate a holiday or mark an anniversary, that we have to go deeper. We have to get to know each other so that we can really develop the personal relationships that you and I have, where we really care about our families and care about sacred moments and cry together and laugh together and march together.
Many of these members of the Jewish community have left Europe
and came and taught in black colleges and university, and their approaches and style influenced some of the great African-American artists of today.
We all need to get together to find out the bigger picture. Those who have been stepped upon have to lead the way.
You know, I think back to the work of the Black Jewish Coalition and the greats who came before we ever were even in Atlanta, and the work that they've done, the path they've paved for us, and also at the same time, so many of the issues are still out there, unresolved, and the work still has to be done.
There's some more bridges to cross, right? So we've got to stand up once again, and while we're inspired by the stories of the past, we dare not rest on the historic laurels of our great congregations. We've got to put on our marching boots and get to work. And I feel good that I've got a partner in that.
That too many people living in fear. If Rabbi Herscher and Martin Luther King Jr. were here today, I think they would be saying, we need to pull together to redeem the soul of America. The generation yet unborn.
Amazing. What? And deeply inspiring. Would you welcome one who has been in the struggle since he was a teenager and really paid a high price for that, but remains deeply committed, a voice of faith and conscience, the chairman of the Spill the Honey Foundation, my brother, the Reverend Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis.
Good evening. This is another great day that the Lord has made. We're celebrating the past. We are gathering in the present. But we're also here to say, because of the effectiveness of shared legacies, we now have to work on shared futures. What are we going to do when we leave this church? What are we going to do tomorrow morning? What are we going to do on this election year? What are we going to do in the world in which we live that seems to be in so much turmoil today? So I come not to make a speech. You've seen the film. You've seen a clip of the film. I want to encourage all of you to get access to this film. Go to spillthehoney.com. This film needs to be in schools. Dr. Warnock, our young people need to know about the relationship between blacks and Jews. A lot is going on college campuses today. And a lot of it is because people don't know the history. People take sides without knowing what's in the middle. And so I've come, and let me just say, when Clarence Jones asked me to, he's now the president emeritus of Spill the Honey. He asked me if I would come forth to make sure that the organization continues. I said, Lord have mercy. Some of you know I'm the former head of the NAACP. I've been in the civil rights movement. I'm 78 years old. I've been in the movement since I was 12. When I was 14, State Field Secretary in my home state of North Carolina asked me to be the youth coordinator of SCLC when I was 14. Put my age up, driving. I shouldn't have been driving at 14, but I was driving. I can talk about it now because the statute of limitations have run out. But I gave me some mobility. I saw firsthand the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel not only march together, pray together, but work together, plan together. And that's what we need today. We need to inspire not a new movement. We need to inspire the continuation of the movement. Dean Carter, I think, has not been given his true tribute. It takes a lot to stay around for a long time and to be engaged. Where the Morehouse International Chapel now has become a place where the whole world not only comes to remember Dr. King, but to refresh our memory and to try to prepare for a new future. So let's give Dean Carter another hand. We need more Senator Warnocks in the Senate of the United States. Several days we wonder if we even have a Congress. We wonder if we have a Supreme Court. But one thing we don't wonder, we are a blessed people. God has blessed the Jewish community. God has blessed the black community. In fact, God has blessed all communities. The question is, how can we work together? What are our shared futures? So I want to also thank the Van Jones Exodus Leadership Forum for supporting this, and the American Jewish Committee for helping to sponsor. Dr. Sherry Roberts, Dr. Sherry, Dr. Sherry Rogers is a force to be reckoned with. When I first met her, I was speaking, Dr. Vaughn, on the anniversary of the tragic October 7th in Israel. We were in Times Square. We had about 300 or 500 people. I was the only black person. I said, Lord have mercy, in Times Square. So it shows, let me say this, on behalf of my beloved black community, we cannot stay silent in the face of anti-Semitism. And let me say to the Jewish community, you cannot stay silent in the face of racism when it comes to black people. We all have to work together. Anti-Semitism and racism are twin evils. And we have to speak out. We have to raise up a new generation that fights for freedom, justice, and equality. So I'm not going to be long. I'm just going to say now, what are we going to do when we leave here? Yes, ma'am. We're going to fight. We're going to march. We're going to pray. But I also want you to show this film in your schools, in elementary schools, in junior high schools, in high schools, in colleges, and universities, in your forums in the community. Because our people today, particularly our young brothers and sisters, if they don't see it, they hardly don't believe it exists. We live in not just an oral tradition, but we now live in a video show me tradition, social media. And so we have to work to make sure that as content producers, we distribute the content that can awaken a mass of people, that can awaken a movement of people. Thank God for shared legacies. Thank God for shared futures.
We shall overcome.